I'm a big fan of Penderecki, and when he studied music as a student, it was the 60s, and so he had learnt how to do electronic music. And he learnt all about filters and white noise generation and all the things that were current technology in the 60s. But then he turned his back on it all and said, I can do these sounds with an orchestra and it'll be more interesting. And I think he's right. And he duly went away and managed to replicate things like white noise using 48 violins, 48 strings. So I took that idea and thought about more recent electronics. So rather than copying electronic sounds, this has been more about trying to emulate electronic and artificial reverbs and delays.
Okay.
Because there's lots of ways to do that in a studio. Like when we're working with Radiohead, you've got so many options of like really early ways to generate echoes. Like there's something called a palm speaker, which is part of the instrument, the on Martineau, and it's just like looks like a wooden box with 24 strings strung across it, and the speaker is inside. So when you play certain notes, whichever string is the same frequency will resonate. And we've used it with Radiohead. There's a song called You and His Army, and so Tom's singing through it, and it makes it sound like a very distant sort of, which it is, an old-fashioned, sound quality to it. So, for example, the first part of this piece tonight is meant to replicate that, because obviously when you have 68 stringed instruments on stage, you can do that. You can have each of them resonating according to what Daniel plays. So suddenly you've got this relationship of a soloist and an orchestra, which is a big resonant box for him. And then later on you have digital echoes to try and emulate. So it's not meant to sound like electronics, but it's meant to be, there's no modest way to say this, it's meant to be better. It's meant to sound more interesting, I hope, because there's going to be flaws and there's going to be human sort of frailties involved in that they can't do things perfectly, and it's never going to be as perfectly equal across all frequencies as you can be with software. But that's why I find it so interesting.
So, Jonny, it was important that the Proms Youth Ensemble were part of this performance. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So, partly because of the scale of the piece, we need 2 orchestras worth of players. And very early on, the BBC suggested getting the Proms Youth Ensemble to come to the workshops and the rehearsals. And they have been amazing. These kids turn up who are clearly all born in the 2000s. It's insane. And they've already dedicated their lives to playing these instruments, and they just sound amazing, and they're all so enthusiastic about it. And they're a great bunch, aren't they, Daniel? And
they're brilliant. And also, I never thought I would come to this day, but here I am saying it's amazing to be surrounded by young people who are really good at what they're doing and also clearly growing, getting better. That's a beautiful thing to be around. I finally understand what my dad says when he says it's wonderful being around young people, and he's completely right. And the way they've been so attentive of Jonny's ideas, which are very possibly things they've not encountered before. And conversely, I have to say, it's beautiful watching how the mentors from the BBC National Orchestra of Wales have been with the Proms Youth Ensemble, this amazing, caring and very respectful energy between them.
Yeah, I mean, you know how for all musicians that lunch breaks and tea breaks are very important, and that's true in my world as well as this. But every time they were stopping, the mentors were taking away the youth ensemble players and doing an extra 5-10 minutes, still showing them the ideas and just kind of really mothering them. Don't you think? It was really lovely to see. And they were and then during the rehearsal yesterday, lots of the youth ensemble players were raising their hand and contributing and asking questions and clarifying things, and which is also a really important part of being in an orchestra.
Jonny Greenwood and our soloist tonight, Daniel Pioro there. And what an amazing experience for the 32 players of the Proms Youth Ensemble. They're joining a 68-strong National Orchestra of Wales this evening. And just in terms of the way the players are being organised on stage, we can see it coming together now. It's quite an unusual formation. The musicians are arranged in a semicircle, so the violins in a semicircle right across the stage on the front row, the violas in the same arrangement behind them. That's applause as they come to take their seats. The cellos behind them in a semicircle also, and so on and so on. And our conductor, Hugh Brunt, he sort of just swoops his baton across this semicircle formation, causing that echo and reverb effect. And as well as more kind of unusual conducting techniques. Well, I heard Horror Vacui in rehearsal this afternoon, and it is a really bold and effective piece. The orchestra really do sound like they're almost electronically feeding back Daniel's solo violin phrases. Jonny Greenwood has called it a wide open goal for hubris, which we absolutely welcome here at the BBC Proms. And I must say, the audience in here really do seem energised by the contrasting and shorter pieces in tonight's programme. Lots of emotional twists and turns, as we mentioned, but just gentle enough for this time of night. And you really do get a sense that there's so much love gone into choosing the pieces and the performers for this programme by Jonny Greenwood. Our